when death is not the final end. Since the dawn of humanity, people have looked up at the sky and asked the first questions. Who am I? Where did I come from? Where will I go when I die? These questions, though seemingly simple, are doors that open into the deepest mysteries of the soul and the universe. For at the core of all fear, all seeking, all worry, human beings are ultimately searching for one thing: the meaning of existence, and whether the end is truly the end. To the eyes of the ignorant, death is a full stop, a dark, cold void where all consciousness dissolves into nothingness. But to awakened souls, death is not a dead end, but a revolving door that opens into a new chapter in the soul's grand journey. It ends nothing. It transforms. It is a shedding of the shell, like a caterpillar shedding its skin to become a butterfly, like a pilgrim leaving behind an old robe to continue their journey through the invisible realms. The question, does reincarnation exist, is not just a matter of philosophy. It is a call from the mystical realm, a whisper in the heart of every human, especially those who have lost loved ones, faced separation, or stood at death's edge. It is the question of one lost in life, of one yearning for meaning, of a soul awakening after a long, deep slumber. For if reincarnation is real, death is no longer to be feared. And if the soul lives beyond death, then every thought and action we take today leaves a mark on a future we must one day live, inescapably. Ancient civilizations from east to west carried sacred memories of reincarnation. In India, it is a core part of spiritual philosophy. Humans are born to learn the soul's lessons, then die to return in another body, another setting, continuing to learn until completion. In Buddhism, this is called samsara, the wheel of birth and death, in which every soul spins endlessly due to karma and ignorance. In ancient Egypt, the soul must pass tests, face judgment, and if unworthy, continue its journey in another form. In Greece, Plato wrote of rebirth and past life memory as essential steps on the path to truth, beauty, and goodness. But are these teachings merely beliefs? Or are they fragments of a deep memory that humanity has forgotten in the whirlwind of time? There is something strange. Regardless of belief, culture, or era, people often feel they have not lived only once. A child may fear a place they've never seen. Someone may fall in love at first sight without knowing why. An artist may weep before a painting they've never encountered as if they once painted it in a distant dream. These are traces, delicate as silk, yet deeply stirring, of what lies beyond the veil we call death. Modern society, intoxicated with materialism and reason, has learned to dismiss the mystical, but the soul still stirs. For each of us, whether we believe or not, carries a quiet intuition that we have lived before, and perhaps will live again. This very intuition trembles when we see a familiar gaze in a sea of strangers. It moves us when we dream of a place we've never been, yet feels heartbreakingly familiar. If death is the end, where do all those vibrations go? Unfinished love, unlearned lessons, unhealed mistakes. Could a universe so wondrous operate on a system so random and unjust? Or is reincarnation, the sacred cycle of rebirth, the true answer to life's greatest questions? Death is not the opposite of life. It is the dissolving part of life, like night follows day, like a seed decays to become a new tree. In spiritual depth, death is merely the soul changing robes, shedding its old form to wear a new one in a new setting, to continue the journey back to the light. For thousands of years, saints, mystics, sages, and awakened souls from Buddha, Krishna, and Milarepa to lamas, Zen masters, and past life regressionists like Dolores Cannon have all echoed one common truth: the soul is immortal, and reincarnation is the rule of the visible world. If that is true, then we never really die. We simply change scenery, and each lifetime is a chance to heal, awaken, and return to our true self. Reincarnation through the lens of ancient mystical traditions. If one listens long enough, deep enough, from the rustling winds in ancient forests to the whispers of old scriptures, they will begin to sense a truth passed down for millennia, transcending cultures, religions, and eras. The soul does not die. And reincarnation is not a hypothesis, but a silent current flowing through all layers of the cosmos. From ancient Eastern philosophies to the sacred groves of the Middle East, from the Indus Valley to the stone temples of old Europe, the idea of the soul's rebirth has endured, quiet, steady, and indestructible. In the sacred land of the Ganges, beneath the flickering oil lamps of Hindu temples, The concept of reincarnation is embedded into every fiber of human consciousness. For Hindus, life does not begin at birth, nor end at death. The soul, called Atman, is eternal, and its journey spans countless lifetimes of learning, growth, and evolution until it merges with the whole, Brahman. Every act, every thought, every emotion leaves a mark called karma, and karma is the wind that guides the sails of rebirth, bringing the soul into a new body, a new context, and a new lesson. In the epic poem Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna serenely declares, "Just as a man casts off worn-out clothes and puts on new ones, so the soul sheds a worn-out body and takes on a new one." No judgment, just a seamless transition, like the passing of day into night. If Hinduism is a long song about the journey of the Atman, then Buddhism, born from the heart of a prince who gave up everything for truth, is a strong wind exposing the root causes of reincarnation. To the Buddha, rebirth is not the will of a god, but the natural consequence of ignorance. Because we do not see the true nature of all things, that all is impermanent, non-self, and interdependent, we create attachments, illusions, and thus spin endlessly in the wheel of samsara. This wheel turns not as punishment, but because consciousness remains unopened. Whether reborn in heaven or hell, all remains within the realm of suffering. Only when one awakens, lets go of clinging, and realizes the emptiness, shunyata, of all phenomena, does the wheel cease to turn. Yet not only in the distant East, within Taoism, where Tao is seen as the root of all existence, humans are not isolated beings, but parts of a great flowing current. Laozi once wrote, "Life's arising is called change. In that mystical view, life and death are but two sides of the same essence, like waves rising and falling in the ocean. The soul, upon leaving the body, does not disappear but returns to the Tao, only to one day manifest again in a new form." Taoist sages practiced internal alchemy, conserving vital essence, not to merely prolong life, but to liberate the soul from the blind repetition of rebirth. They called this ascension, or return to the source, a state of absolute freedom. If we step into the mystical deserts of ancient Judaism, we find Kabbalah, the esoteric branch of Jewish wisdom, speaking of Gilgal Neshamot, the wheel of souls. They believe the soul is a spark of divine light, and when it is still incomplete, it returns to the world, not for punishment, but to complete healing, to fulfill the wholeness assigned by God. Interestingly, not all souls reincarnate, only those not yet awakened or finished with their mission must return. From this perspective, every life is a sacred opportunity to remember, to return to one's original light. Even in the ancient Western mystical traditions, like the Gnostics of early Christianity or the Sufi masters of Islam, the soul is seen as temporarily housed in flesh, and rebirth is a way to learn the final lesson, to return to the source. For them, earth is not home, but school, a place where the soul experiences, stumbles, loves, suffers, and slowly awakens from a long dream. It is remarkable, though each religion, each symbol, each teaching may differ, behind them all is a truth reflected through many lenses. Reincarnation is real. It is the path the soul walks until it no longer needs to walk. It is the unnamed melody resonating in every child's eyes, every inexplicable memory, every deep tremor we feel when facing something strangely familiar. If this world is indeed ruled by reincarnation, and all mystical traditions affirm it, then perhaps every act we take today is the opening chapter of a life to come. And if that is true, how could we afford to live carelessly? Unlearned memories, traces of reincarnated souls. In a world flooded with the visible, people often lean toward believing only what can be measured, captured, or replicated in sterile laboratory conditions. Yet every time reason falls asleep, every time a child's eyes glimmer with a tale that shouldn't be possible, something from the invisible realm slowly steps into reality, breaking logic, stirring intuition, and gently reminding us that perhaps something has always walked beside us for thousands of years: reincarnation. Across the world, from spiritual East to rational West, countless strange cases have been recorded of children who recall past lives, memories they could not have learned, fabricated, or imagined. They speak with the tone of adults, name people, places, accidents, occupations, all aligning with someone who had long died. No one taught them these things. No one told them the stories. So how do these memories exist, so clear, vivid, and emotional? The most famous researcher in reincarnation studies is Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist from the University of Virginia. He spent over 40 years investigating thousands of such cases, from India, Thailand, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Lebanon, Turkey to the United States. He was not a mystic, not a spiritual teacher, but a scientist demanding evidence, logic, and rigorous controls. Yet he concluded, if these cases do not prove reincarnation, then they are revealing a previously unexplained law of nature. In Stevenson's archives lie many astonishing stories. A 3-year-old girl in India claimed she had been a woman murdered in a nearby village. She accurately described the husband's name, the burial site, the wounds, the weapon, all verified as true. A boy in Turkey was born speaking Kurdish, though his entire Turkish family had never learned the language. Not only could he speak Kurdish, but he also named a man killed by a stray bullet, described the death scene, the body's location, and even the family of his past life. Everything matched. These accounts are not isolated, not random, and not easily dismissed by conventional theories. They appear across cultures, religions, and societies with a recurring pattern. Children between ages 2 to 7 begin recalling previous lives, describing vivid details, sometimes with fears or emotional reactions directly tied to their former deaths. Some are born with birthmarks or defects exactly matching fatal wounds of their past self. When compared to death records, the correspondences are uncanny. Color, size, location, all aligned. Beyond children, in modern times, the concept of past life regression has opened doors for millions of adults to explore the unconscious depths of their being. Through a special hypnotic state, where logic steps aside, people begin recounting stories not part of their current memory. They describe ancient landscapes, strange costumes, speak unfamiliar languages, even sing old songs later verified to exist in history. One of the pioneers of past life regression is Dr. Brian L. Weiss, former head of psychiatry at Mount Sinai Medical Center in the U.S. In his book, Many Lives, Many Masters, he recounts the story of Catherine, a completely ordinary woman with no spiritual background, who, through dozens of regression sessions, described lifetimes as an Egyptian slave, a Tibetan girl, a Greek man. Each story came with deep psychological healing. Anxieties, depression, fears seemed to have roots in lives before. Science could not explain it, but the soul seemed to be speaking. In a world that demands physical proof, reincarnation manifests in a subtler way, through memory, something unmeasurable yet universally experienced. The memory of a place never visited yet hauntingly familiar. The memory of a gaze that brings tears for no clear reason. Memories like a breeze brushing the heart, awakening something ancient, something real, something deeply ours. If such memories are random, why do they emerge in thousands of people across the world, from innocent children to awakened adults? If not echoes of the soul, then what are they? If reincarnation is false, how do these stories exist, so powerful, emotional, and consistent? Perhaps the universe is whispering something. Perhaps memory is not a product of the brain, but a trace left by the soul across its eternal journey. Perhaps every strange dream, every déjà vu, every fated encounter is a fragment of a mirror reflecting a life once lived. And if that's the case, maybe we are not strangers at all. We are just remembering. Reincarnation through the lens of energy and frequency. There is a profound truth that great scientists have long recognized. Matter is not the core of reality. Beneath the rigid surface of all objects, of the body, of stone, of planets, of yourself, lies energy. And energy never dies. It only transforms from one form to another. So if the soul truly is a form of energy, as all mystical traditions claim, how could it die? Could what we call death merely be a shift in frequency? Like a radio changing stations, like light changing color, like music playing in a different key. In quantum physics, every entity emits a field of vibration, a specific frequency spectrum. Humans too. Every emotion, love, peace, gratitude, hatred, fear, carries a distinct vibration that can be measured, analyzed, and even influences the physical world around us. When you are angry, your body heats up, your heart rhythm becomes erratic, and your energy field contracts. When you love, your body opens, your heart regulates, and your frequency rises, becoming more harmonious with subtle energy planes. So imagine the soul as a pure energetic data field, carrying all memories, emotions, lessons, and karmic traces from countless lives. This field is not bound to the physical body. It merely temporarily resides in it, like a song played through an instrument. When the instrument breaks, the song does not disappear. It waits for another to be played again. That is how reincarnation works. Not a mystical myth, but a natural motion in a universe where everything is wave, not particle. In the energy theory of modern mystics, there's the concept of the Akashic field, a cosmic library that records every journey of every soul. Every lifetime, every decision, every relationship, every detail, no matter how small. What we call past life memory is actually present consciousness reconnecting with this information field. When the vibration is right, when intuition is awake, when the frequency is fine-tuned enough to catch the signal. Just like a radio tunes in only at the correct frequency, the soul, at deeper levels, can recall past life fragments only when in special states. Through meditation, hypnosis, near-death experiences, or emotional resonance with a certain scene. Have you ever walked into a strange house and felt like you've lived there? Heard an unknown song and cried? Felt like you've lived here before, even on a first visit? Perhaps that is the soul's frequency resonating with a memory of its former self. Scientists like Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, Max Planck, all emphasized, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, so why should the soul be an exception? Perhaps death is not the end, but the collapse of the material shell, releasing soul energy from its old receiver to be broadcast again in a new body, a new frequency, a new script. One nearly undeniable phenomenon is the near-death experience, where millions have crossed the threshold between life and death and returned with remarkably similar descriptions. Brilliant light, an out-of-body sensation, seeing their own body from above, reunions with deceased loved ones, a life review played backwards, and an indescribable peace. If death were the end, how could consciousness still register these things? If the soul were just brain activity, how could it continue after the brain stops? In physics, nothing is truly lost, only transformed. Water evaporates into clouds. Clouds become rain and return to water. Light disperses and then gathers again. And if the soul is light, as all spiritual traditions affirm, it must follow the same law. Death is evaporation. Reincarnation is the return of rain, a cosmic cycle in which you, I, we all are part, whether we believe or not. The wonder is this: the very energy we emit in this life, through thoughts, words, and actions, is the vibrational blueprint for the next. Live in fear, and you attract realities shaped by darkness. Live in love, and you open doors to lighter, more beautiful dimensions. Reincarnation punishes no one, it merely leads you where your soul's frequency has chosen. So, if we understand this, death is no longer fearsome. It becomes a pause in the journey, a station between rides, a silence before the next symphony. You will return, not because you're forced to, but because your soul still has lessons to learn, wounds to forgive, more love to give, more understanding to deepen, and more light to share. That journey, seemingly endless, is also the very path that leads us home, to our immortal origin. The purpose of reincarnation. Why do souls keep returning? There is a question more important than all others. If reincarnation is real, then why must the soul return? Why can't we simply die and merge back into the absolute light, where there is no more suffering, no form, no attachment? Why must we live again and again through all this incompleteness, unfinished love, sudden death, silent sorrow, and endless longing? The answer, though seemingly simple, echoes like a cosmic bell, because the soul has something yet to complete. Reincarnation is not punishment. It is a miraculous opportunity, a cycle of universal compassion, allowing the soul to return to continue learning, healing, and remembering its true nature. Each life is like a classroom, and we as students of the universe must study each subject: love, loss, freedom, responsibility, forgiveness, surrender, creation. Each lesson is not just a mental exercise, it is etched into the depth of lived experience. And if a lesson remains incomplete, if the soul still clings, resents, misunderstands, it will return again, not by force, but by choice, to continue its journey back to wholeness. Many believe that death liberates us from earthly suffering, but the truth is the soul cannot escape what it does not yet understand. An unresolved grudge, an unfulfilled promise, a child not fully loved, a mistake not forgiven, all become karmic gravity that binds the soul to the spinning wheel of samsara. And so the next life begins, not by accident, but as the next chapter in an unfinished story. Some souls, carrying great light, choose to be born into difficult circumstances to help others and illuminate the path. These are the volunteer souls, returning not to repay karma, but to serve. But most souls return because of unresolved attachments. They come back for the chance to love someone again, to complete a life left unfinished, to transform unhealed pain, or simply because they haven't yet remembered who they truly are. In the space between lives, as described by many in near-death experiences or past life regressions, the soul is often guided to choose its next lesson. Some are shown their past lives, realize what remains incomplete, and agree to reincarnate into a suitable context. Some choose to be single mothers to learn sacrifice. Some choose disability to learn acceptance. Some choose a short life, just to awaken love in a cold family. Each choice carries a profound wisdom, though the soul temporarily forgets it when entering the body, so that the lesson can be fully felt. One of the biggest reasons the soul returns is because the ego remains strong. As long as we're haunted by who I am right, I've been hurt, I need to be loved, the soul has not dissolved into oneness. It still sees itself as separate. It has not yet viewed all things through the eyes of unconditional love. This separation, called ignorance, avidya in Buddhism, is the glue binding the soul to the cycle of rebirth. Yet within this spinning cycle, the soul is not merely repaying debts. It is learning to open, to love deeper, to grow wiser, to remember who it is. If in a past life you lived in anger, this life you learn to forgive. If you once judged others, now you experience being judged. Not because the universe wants to punish, but because the soul wants to understand completely. And there is no deeper understanding than becoming what you once couldn't grasp. Each reincarnation brings subtle traces, sometimes a natural talent, an unusual birthmark, a deep sensitivity, or a nameless sorrow. These are whispers from past lives, reminders that we are continuing a journey far longer than what the eyes can see. Sometimes a soul returns just to meet one person, to live one day, to speak one word left unsaid in a past life. And then they go, gently, fulfilled. Understanding reincarnation does not make life easier, but it makes us cherish each moment more. We will no longer waste time on hatred, knowing the one we hate today may have been someone we once loved. We will no longer crave possession, understanding no one belongs to anyone. All are roles played for the soul to learn love without attachment. We will listen more deeply, forgive sooner, love more fully, because every act in the present is a seed for a future life, our own. Reincarnation does not force us to return. It is our own incomplete heart that draws us back. And the miracle is this: each return brings a new chance, a new body, a new name, a blank page to continue writing the soul's symphony. No one is trapped in the cycle, but no one is released until they've completed the lesson of love. Enlightenment, the key to escaping the wheel of rebirth. There is a small moment in every person's life, a moment when the soul silently pauses, looks inward, and suddenly realizes, I no longer want to repeat. I no longer wish to replay old relationships in new forms, to relearn the same lessons from teachers with different names, to wander endlessly through the maze of life seeking something I already carried from the very beginning. That moment, light as breath, fleeting as an autumn breeze, is enough to bend the wheel of reincarnation, opening the path to enlightenment. Enlightenment is not a lofty goal reserved for Buddhas, masters, or forest hermits. It is a pure state of awareness, where the soul sees clearly the true nature of life. Everything is impermanent, every phenomenon is a temporary appearance, and every self we cling to, from body to status, fame to emotion, is but a wisp of smoke in the cosmic wind. When consciousness realizes this, not just intellectually, but through the heart, the wheel of rebirth begins to slow. The Buddha once said, I have wandered through many births, seeking the builder of this house of suffering. And when I saw that the ego is the builder, I stopped clinging. And the cycle of birth and death came to an end. He did not conquer the world. He did not destroy desire. He simply saw its true nature and stopped grasping. That is when the flame naturally extinguishes. That is nirvana. But how can we reach that state amid a chaotic world where we are still bound by family, work, emotion, and pain? The answer lies not in escaping the world, but in living within it without being ruled by it. You do not need to give up everything to awaken. You only need to release the identification between yourself and what you think is you. Enlightenment doesn't come through ritual or formula. It may arrive while meditating under a tree or while washing dishes in the kitchen. It may arise in the deepest sorrow or the highest joy. But the signs are always the same. You feel lighter, as if a heavy shell has just fallen away. The world remains unchanged, but the way you see it is completely different. You no longer react, you simply witness. You're no longer swept by emotion. At that point, karma no longer holds you, because karma sticks only to those who cling. When you no longer create new karma, no longer act from instinct, no longer strive to prove yourself, then old karma dissolves, like clouds vanishing when the wind dies. And when karma dissolves, reincarnation ends. Not because you've fled life, but because you no longer need it. In truth, the paradox is this. Only when you accept everything as it is, with no resistance, no struggle, no craving, do you become truly free. Like a diver at the bottom of the sea, the more you struggle, the deeper you sink. But if you surrender and trust, the water lifts you toward the surface. Awakening is the same. It is not action, but the deep letting go of the soul. And when true enlightenment comes, you still live, eat, work, love, but you are no longer controlled by life. You become the still center in the storm. You smile through tears. You stand steady through change. And even if your body fades, your inner light continues, no longer drawn into the cycle of birth, death, rebirth. You have become a free soul. In mystical traditions, souls who reach this state are called by many names: Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Mahatmas, saints, immortals, or simply those who need not return. They have tasted every flavor of earthly life, and now they return to become one with the universe. But sometimes, out of love, they come back, not by karma, but by vow. These are the highest souls, those who need no rebirth, but choose to return to guide others. They come and go like the wind. You cannot hold them, but you can remember them with your heart. And you, no matter who you are, can walk that path. Not by becoming extraordinary, but by living simply, mindfully, and truthfully. Every time you choose forgiveness over blame, love over fear, presence over being lost in emotion, you move closer to freedom. Enlightenment is not far away. It lives in your next breath, in the stillness between two heartbeats. In the moment you stop asking, "Who am I?" and start living as if you are light itself. And when that happens, the wheel of reincarnation will stop, not because you broke it, but because you have risen above every reason for it to spin. If reincarnation is real, how would you live differently? Imagine one day you no longer doubt that reincarnation is real. Not as a vague belief, not as a tale from religious texts, but as a clear inner knowing. As if you had just awakened from a long dream and saw this entire life as a school, and you, a student who is no stranger to pain, to love, to loss, you realize you've been here before, that you've loved someone deeply, that you once made a promise you never got to keep, that the tears you shed today are not just from yesterday, but from a soul that once wore another face. If reincarnation is real, then nothing that happens to you is random. Every person you meet, even just once, may be a puzzle piece from a former life. The one who hurts you may once have been someone you owed. The one who stirs your soul may be a soulmate lost across centuries. No one is a total stranger, and no meeting is mere coincidence. All are arrangements of karma, of soul contracts, of memories and promises left unspoken. You begin to see the world as a mystical tapestry, each thread connecting nameless stories from thousands of years ago, weaving the very present you now live. If reincarnation is real, then you are not a victim. You are a creator. Every choice, every action, every word is a seed planted in consciousness, and it will bloom, if not in this life, then in another. And that is not frightening, it is empowering. Because if you've sown suffering, you can stop. If you've caused pain, you can heal. If you carry heavy karma, you can still release it, through awareness, through love, through sincere remorse and deep forgiveness. If reincarnation is real, then nothing is truly lost. The loved one who leaves you today may simply be stepping ahead on a long journey. They may return in another form in another life, when both of you are ready for a new lesson. Grief no longer becomes despair, but a gentle reminder that the soul never dies. It only changes form to continue loving, living, learning. And perhaps, Letting go today is the preparation for a deeper reunion in a lifetime where both souls are no longer afraid, no longer unfinished. If reincarnation is real, you will live differently. You will live more deeply. You will savor each moment as something sacred. You'll pause to gaze into someone's eyes, not to find answers, but to listen to the story those eyes have been telling across lifetimes. You'll hold your beloved as if this were the last time, not out of fear, but because you know nothing lasts forever. You'll stop blaming those who hurt you because you understand they too are walking through lessons their souls have yet to master. And so are you. You will live more lightly, not out of indifference, but because you've seen that everything will pass. No one takes wealth, fame, status, or arguments with them. Only the lessons remain: compassion, patience, truth, courage. These stay with the soul, following you through lifetimes. Then you'll begin to discern what's worth keeping, what's time to release. And in that lightness, you'll find freedom. You will live more beautifully, because you'll know that every kind gesture, every kind word, every nameless act of help is a way of lighting the path you walk. That light doesn't disappear. It becomes a compass, guiding you through future lives. And perhaps one day, you'll walk under the light you once cast, in another body, with no memory of who you were, but still feel the warmth of something good that someone once did. And finally, if reincarnation is real, you will no longer fear death. You'll understand, death is not a full stop, but an ellipsis for a new chapter to begin. You won't cling, you won't panic, you won't regret. You'll smile like a traveler departing an old station, carrying the luggage of lessons learned, and a heart ready for the next journey. And you know what? Perhaps right now as you read these lines, a part of your soul is remembering. Remembering the path once walked. Remembering the light once seen. Remembering a truth that needs no proof. That you have lived, have loved, have died, and have been reborn. And now you are finding your way back.